So now you know how to use mindfulness and you know how to use cognitive restructuring. Hopefully, you've also been able to guess how the two might be linked. We use mindfulness in order to identify the negative thoughts, and then we apply cognitive restructuring in order to change them. This has been used for a while now in order to treat things like phobias, anxiety disorders, addiction, and much more. But what if you don't have any of these problems and you're completely fine? Well, in that case, we can still use cognitive restructuring because the thing is, you can actually use cognitive restructuring to improve aspects of your thought processes that aren't broken. In other words, this isn't just a tool for healing, but also a tool for self improvement. And there are countless ways you can use it to make yourself calmer, more confident, and more productive. Likewise, there are many things that are similar to cognitive restructuring but don't technically fall under the same heading. We'll be returning to this concept more in future, but now let's look at some alternative ways to control your thought patterns and some alternative motivations for doing it. Often, we think of fear and anxiety as being short term responses to situations or stimuli. But in fact, our fear and anxiety can be much longer term and affect our decision making, goal setting, and decisions. Tim Ferriss proposes a concept called fear setting in his book, The 4 Hour Workweek, as a tool you can use to overcome your fears and thereby start getting what you want out of life. So, let's say you're thinking of starting a new job, taking a career break so you can go traveling, or starting your own business. You've been thinking of doing these things for a long while, but the problem is you're too afraid to do it because you think you'll end up without a job, without a partner. Surely, if you leave your current job to go traveling, you won't be able to get a job on your return. And the longer you're unemployed, the more unemployable you'll become. Eventually, your partner will become sick and tired of scraping by because of a stupid decision you made, and they'll leave you. Then your house will be repossessed, and you'll end up homeless and alone. That might all sound very over the top, but this is the kind of thing we actually think on an unconscious level all the time. And the reason we think it is that humans are naturally very risk averse. We evolved in the wild where risk would generally mean lions. As such, we learn to become more sensitive to risk and to defend our assets more than go after new assets. But today, risk is very rarely anything life threatening. More likely, risk will mean getting shouted at, but we blow it out of all proportion because we're risk averse people. By now, you should hopefully be able to guess what's coming next. Thought challenging. We're going to take these beliefs and fears and challenge them by looking at just how realistic they are. And Tim Ferriss's technique is perfect for this. So, first, think about what it is you want to do and why you want to do it. Now think about all the things that are right now holding you back from taking the plunge and giving it a go. If we're talking about taking a career break, then your list of fears and reasons might look something like this. Now's not a good time. You don't have any money. You don't want to leave your partner for that long. You're afraid your job won't be there when you get back. You're afraid you won't be able to find subsequent employment. You're afraid you might ultimately end up destitute, in debt, or homeless. Now, let's assess each of these beliefs. To do that, we're looking not only at how likely they are, but also how you'd cope if they were to happen. Think of contingencies and things you can do to prevent them from being likely. Okay, let's look at the first one. Now's not a good time, you don't have much money. Well, there's never actually a good time, and if you travel smart, you don't need much money. You can work online while you travel. You actually won't need that much money, and now is probably better than later. Okay, you don't want to leave your partner for that long. Well, they probably don't mind. If it's important to you, then it's something you have to do. It's preferable to feeling resentful towards your partner because they prevented you from seeing the world. And why not take your partner with you and go traveling together? You're afraid your job won't be there when you get back. Well, it probably will be. Discuss this with your employer. And anyway, Do you love your job that much? You're afraid you won't be able to find subsequent employment. This is highly unlikely. If you're skilled, then travel will simply add to your CV. You could even find a new job and agree to start later on. If necessary, then you can take a part time job or start a side business to tide yourself over. You're afraid that you might ultimately end up destitute, in debt, or homeless. Well, you can live on savings for a long time. You can earn money in other ways, and you probably have parents or friends who would take you in long before you came homeless. Now think about the alternative. Do you want to never go traveling? Do you want to spend every single day stuck in that office without ever accomplishing the things you want to accomplish? Let this motivate you more than the fear, and now make the decision to take the plunge. The same technique can help you to make the decision to start a new career, to move country, or to do the countless other things that you've been dreaming of doing. So, in this case, we have used thought challenging again to break down our fears so that we can go after whatever we want in life. But another method you can use is to acknowledge those fears as real, but just find a strategy that minimizes the risk. In this section, we'll look at a technique you can use to do this in dating, one that will give you the confidence to approach and date anyone. So, let's say you're the average awkward guy, for argument's sake. You go to bars regularly with friends, hope it's a pull, but you're too afraid to approach the people on the dance floor. Why? Because you're worried they'll reject you and you'll end up feeling incredibly awkward. That's a genuine concern, although we could ask why it matters. So it's hard to deny it out of hand. The simple solution? Minimize the risk and remove your likelihood of failing. To do this, you can simply assess the situation before you approach anyone. So hang back away from the bar and chat with friends. As you do, look around the place for people you're interested in, and if you see someone, smile at them while making eye contact. If they're interested, then you can bet they're going to smile back. And if they're absolutely not interested, well, they'll probably just look away and you'll know about it. But in either situation, you haven't lost face and you can still hold your head high. There's nothing to be afraid of. If they smiled, though, then you can probably relatively safely approach them. Now, that doesn't mean they're necessarily into you, but it means at least they're open to the idea of chatting with you. So, the next step is to head over in your group of friends and talk to their group of friends. Don't speak to them only. Speak to the whole group so you simply come across as someone friendly, outgoing, and interesting. Likewise, let your friends mingle with their friends too. When you get a moment, try to spend a bit more time chatting with the person you were initially interested in and who gave you the go ahead to come over. If the conversation is going well with the person you're interested in, then you can step it up one more notch by simply offering to buy them a drink. This is a very clear signal that you're interested in them, and so they probably won't say yes unless they're interested back. Now they're away, you can talk to them on their own and assess the situation. Finally, ask if they want to dance, and if they say yes, take the same approach. Dance more and more closely until eventually you're completely sure it's okay to make the move. In this situation, you've now approached someone attractive in a bar, but at no point is there any danger of rejection. If they don't want to talk to you, they won't smile. If they aren't interested when you come over, they'll make excuses and you can talk to their friends. If they change their minds, they can say no to the drink. If you're giving off the wrong signals, then they can say no to the dance. But at no point have you embarrassed yourself and you haven't done anything that you can't bounce back from. Think about other things that you're afraid to do in your life and assess why it is that you're afraid, and then think of ways you can get around that fear by avoiding the worst case scenarios.